We're supposed to be communicating. We're fucking working here together, my nigga.
This man really typed.
Shut up. Don't talk
This man
to
really
us like
typed
that.
Estefania.
Yes, I typed that shit out. Either way,
You didn't even spell it right.
Eddie, do the intro. Fuck.
Okay, boys, it's your host with the roast.
Shut up, Berleezy.
Shut
You thought I was gonna catch that?
up.
Nah, you thought I
Alright,
wasn't gonna catch that.
fuck. Alright, look,
Oh my God.
it's your boy, Juno Nice. You know, we started another podcast here, Reserve
This is
Force.
the lamest fucking intro I've ever heard in my life.
We got
No, it's kind of
we
really
got DJ.
Hey, what's up?
We got Glizzy God.
What up?
We got Mamba Jack. We got Araxis. We got
Zach?
Pastel King.
Yeah.
And we got Ace.
You're.
This nigga said you're.
Nigga trying to be Ron. Nigga trying to be Ron so bad. Nigga trying to be Ron so bad.
You're.
Yo,
Nigga want to be
Hey,
Ron
Ron said
so
you're?
bad. Ron always say you're like that. That's Ron's thing.
nigga.
Don't say you're. That's been Ron's thing.
I've been saying
Nigga,
you're way
not
before.
steal
Ron.
Let me hear it. Hey,
No.
yeah. Let me hear it again.
You want to get a laugh?
Yeah,
You're.
laugh.
Don't get
wanna take a
don't
laugh?
get to the mouth. That's your intro.
Alright.
Let me hear it.
Okay, so anyway,
Okay.
we're gonna be talking today about a lot of you know shit. Talking about masculinity, toxic masculinity, I guess. Since this nigga want to talk about it so badly.
I really don't.
guys.
Let's do it.
Why do you not
So-
have these topics ready to line up?
They're over here in this other server that we
This is
have.
because Ganya really wanted to talk about toxic masculinity, bro. And he
No,
was
I
like,
feel
we were
like
having a
it's too early.
conversation.
It feels like it's way too fucking early
For who?
to just get into something
And-
so fucking deep. Ugh.
It's deep. It's like this is like
Okay.
episode 45 shit, and we episode 10.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
bro,
how about
you
this?
think-
If
you
you're
think
gonna
niggas
get into
care?
this deep episode, like just save this and then post it for the later
Save
on.
this, bro. Look here. If you listen to this episode right now, what you mean too deep? Shut up, bitch. It's not that deep. Let's talk about it.
Let's get to it then.
I like that. Today's July 17th, 2021.
Damn, we're really in July.
Okay, so my first question is like, is toxic masculinity just like a full-on problem?
Absolutely.
It is
Yeah.
hard to pronounce.
Yeah, I think it is a problem.
Okay,
I think
what
there's
is
a problem.
what is your because everybody would have their different. What is Johnny? What is your definition of a toxic masculinity? Toxic
I told you.
masculinity.
Toxic.
Like,
I guess it's like a fucking dickhead that doesn't like respect anyone, basically.
Wait, can
That's
I
not
lay out
obviously-
a definition and see if we all agree to it?
Oh shit,
Mm.
the definition, yeah. So
All
what-
right. So from what I'm seeing, toxic masculinity is when men feel the need to conform to rigid gender norms, so they will act a certain way to uphold a certain image. Is what toxic masculinity is.
That's society laid out for
I
them,
don't
yeah.
know.
are we talking?
I think it's a
is
little
that, like-
broader though. I think it's a little broader.
I don't
It
know
is
because
broader.
to me that one I don't see that much as the issue unless you're trying to force other people within that thing. But if you're just
So-
doing it for yourself and you're not
So,
affecting no one,
what's an
I don't
example
see
of
the
like
problem.
toxic
Is that
masculinity?
what it
then?
means? With like, oh, you gotta do these just because you're the woman, and I gotta go do this because I'm the man.
No, it's more
Yeah.
like when like there's cultural norms, right?
Yeah.
That like if you stray from a certain path, you're considered toxic, right?
Yeah,
so it's like
so-
how society views you within a
So
certain
it's like oh, men
line,
don't
right?
cry, so I'm gonna like suppress all my emotions. That's toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Or it's like oh, I can never lose, so I'm gonna like put everybody down, so that way I'm always on top. You know, that's
Yeah.
toxic masculinity.
Yeah, like maintaining appearance, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like
It-
you know, like alpha. You know, I'm alpha. You know, that's toxic masculinity.
That alpha shit is very
Yeah.
toxic.
I think it's a societal problem. I think like the older generation of like parenting is definitely kind of wrong in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Like-
know, even
like
with my
violence
dad,
to
you know, it's
indicate,
always
like, power.
It's always like you can't talk. You know, like I can't talk to my dad about how I felt and shit. You know, like that's just not how we did. You know, that's not how we
Yeah,
do
'cause
and
it
everything.
felt kind
You
of
know?
weird. Like if you did, it just showed like weakness towards him or some shit.
Yeah, and it's just hard to talk to him because like you know, like I can talk to my mom how I want, but like my dad was just like what do you say?
At least you have a
Do
dad.
you believe
I don't have a
that
dad.
Okay, true.
they can grow out of it? Like, so say if you like you
Mm.
had toxic masculinity parents and like, oh, you shouldn't do this, but that child would feel this way. Do you think they would carry that on to the next like until they're a
Generation?
father. Like, yeah,
Are you talking about
generation
the
like
child specifically?
yeah. So like they'll like oh. So since they want to talk about it, but since they've been told not to, they feel like that. But since they've been taught so like a way, do you think they can grow out of that, or they're just gonna carry on the same tradition?
Nah,
Well,
they can
I
grow
feel
out
like
of
the
that
reason
shit.
it's so loosely like it's like frowned upon in this generation is because we're able to get out of our house and see like the world around us, and then how the newer generation reacts to things because we have access to social media and everything. Where they're
Yeah,
like,
you can-
"Do you? Does this happen to y'all? Like, does your dad do this?" And it's like, "Wait, I actually felt bad about this, and now I have a voice.
right? Because
Now I
you
have
could like
someone to
see the
speak."
examples of like
Yeah.
past generations, yeah, and
It's laid out
everybody-
for you.
yeah.
It's laid out for you in front of your face. It's not like it's like newspaper where they like you get it. You can get it directly whenever you want, and that's why I think the generation will just continue to evolve and change, and that we won't revert back. Hopefully,
Yeah, everybody's like putting their foots down now. Yeah.
And there's
Big
like so many
facts.
like outlets like social media, you know, where like a lot of people are relating to each other and they're kind of like, you know, pushing each other through.
It's like, is
So
your
I
dad a dick? Yeah, my dad's a dick too. Like,
Yeah,
fuck.
facts.
Imagine having a dad.
Okay,
Is your
bro.
dad there? Damn, my
Damn.
dad's gone too. Like,
Wait, okay, I
you
have a
know,
question. Who said that? Was that you, DJ?
No,
No, that
Oh,
was
this
Sage.
God.
Not Sage. Yeah.
crazy God.
Sage?
Yeah.
Are you black?
Nah,
it
Fuck
doesn't sound
no.
black. What?
Nigga.
I'm whole.
What does that mean? What does
Your
sounding black
ethnicity
mean,
chart
John?
is down.
Are you
There's no such thing
assuming
as sounding black, bro.
what is sounding
I can tell.
black?
There's no.
I'm Hawaiian.
No, you
Can we
can't.
get an
You
example
literally
of what
cannot.
sounding
You
black
literally
is?
You
cannot.
really cannot tell.
Yes,
Can't
I can.
tell.
Straight
I'm
up.
so
I'm the
If I never
token
said
Hawaiian.
nigga, you would literally never tell. I think. Like,
No, I can tell you're
I
black.
can
No,
tell
no,
that.
no,
I
you're
can tell
black.
that you're black.
Your
I can
name,
tell that.
Eddie. Your name.
Angelo, you have no
Okay,
voice. You
bro,
can't. You
my
can't say he
name,
sounds black.
dude. Without knowing somebody's name, I'll talk about the voice alone. Talk about voice alone.
Oh, I guess. But
Like,
back on topic
legit?
with toxic masculinity.
Like, listen,
Ah.
like,
So you do say you just sound black, Eddie.
Yeah, you sound black.
I mean, I guess.
Where were we?
Yeah. So what's the question?
was
at
gonna ask
hand?
me a
Like,
question.
What's the question at hand? I just want to
It was
understand.
he wanted like your definition of.
I
toxic
wanted to know
masculinity?
if, or are you talking about the first question or the second question I asked?
So you
Second
can ask
question.
the second question.
The one where it's like, so let's say that you were raised like under toxic masculinity, and that you wanted to speak up but you couldn't because that's how you're taught. But then you
Yes.
have a kid. Are you
Mm.
gonna follow the same traditions of like, oh, you know, you should man up because that's how you were taught and that you carried that on, or are you going to grow out of it?
I would say no because that's like generational like resentment kind of thing.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I think that's just gonna like is because it affects people when they grow older and they'll look back at it and be like, damn, I didn't talk to my dad after I got out that house because that shit. And they're like, well, I want to be better than my dad. Like that's that thing like you want to be better than the person that raised you because that's what the goal was for you,
Yeah,
right?
th-
Or
I think
hopefully,
it depends on the person, though.
that's all
person
true.
to person.
Yeah.
But like, bro, sometimes when like in some people's cases, like our boy Sage, like if you don't have a father or some type of parental figure that's important,
Mhm.
sometimes how you raise your kids within your own perspective can skew your intentions. Because it's like the same thing with my dad. My dad didn't really have a relationship with his father, so he always says some stuff like, "Oh, I didn't have a dad, and I'm doing my best." He's like, "Yeah, but like, dude, since you don't have a dad, you low-key don't really fully understand how to,
Be a dad.
yeah."
Mm.
Which is kind of interesting, because like, I wouldn't say that people can't grow up to not be like toxic or whatever, but I feel like there's certain things that may hold them back from doing so, because like if you don't have like a certain friend group that has these open conversations to talk about, oh, what is how does this going on in your life and this, you might not even have the chance to really think about that stuff deeply to like reflect on yourself and like the people around you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since that came to me, just to like touch on that, I think it like Pastel was saying, it really depends on the person because like luckily for me, like
Yeah.
my mom, she's in the military like 23 and a half years, and she I don't know, she kind of grew up a tomboy, so she was able to kind of fill both roles for me, and that comes back to the argument a lot of people make about like toxic masculinity, like does it even exist? Because my mom always taught me like just treat people right, and so there's a difference between like being a douchebag or like do you have to stay on the path that society sets for you, to like not be considered toxic per se,
Well, I think toxic
Mhm.
masculinity is more of an inward thing rather than an outward thing.
Think so?
I genuinely, I believe so. I believe the whole concept of like boys don't cry and you gotta be a solid rock and stuff. Those are very much inward things that
I think
end up affecting outwardly, but like I don't feel like that has anything with how you treat others. That has to do with how you treat yourself.
But when you say that, do you mean like inward as in like you have to consciously make a decision? Because like I would say like outwardly, because it's societal standards putting that pressure on you to act a certain way, right?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, I get what you mean by the fucking outward pressure, but like, I think at the end of the day, it's an inward feeling. Is I guess what I mean. It's not like how you're acting towards outwards. You know what I mean? It's how you're acting towards yourself, and then how that affects others. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
That comes
Is it
second.
gonna be
You know
considered
what I
like
mean?
toxic masculinity? All right. So
Because
it's like
when people talk about toxic masculinity, there's always certain like things that kind of play key parts into it. Like a big thing is kind of like the idea of like physical compassion. You know what I mean? With friends even. You know what I mean? People kind of are like, it's like the idea that it's acceptable for like a woman to be huggy and cuddly with her friends, but if a guy were to do it, it's suddenly taboo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's like those type of like standards set that are like what it's really defining toxic masculinity, less of how I'm treating people. I mean, maybe you
True.
could our arguments could go further that say there's like a standards, well, how men should treat women as well, but I think the majority of the cases when it comes to this idea are very much like standards men have to follow rather than like actions or how they treat people.
I think you're right, because you can be like the most extroverted person in the world and still like have a foundational belief that like real men don't cry,
Yeah, exactly. I see
what you're saying.
I think there was actually an interesting study where there was like a woman, and she dressed up as a man for like a month in like the workplace. I was like, I don't remember how long like the study was, but she found like herself very like, it was very hard to like open up to like guy friends and stuff like that. I just thought that was like pretty interesting. You know what I mean? It shows a lot of like how closed off people have become.
Yeah.
And how much it takes for people to be willing to take that step.
Yeah, and just gotta like put a framework like around what you said. Like we are talking about like toxic masculinity, but we gotta also understand that there is just masculinity.
Yeah.
Like these emotions were like like even when people probably couldn't talk, I'm sure men knew that they had to hold a higher standard in the social life, that they had to act a certain way to keep things going a certain way
to keep things running.
Yeah,
basically.
to keep things running, exactly.
Maintain
And like
quo.
and nobody's gonna
'cause-
call them toxic because they did what they had to do. Like that's just the qualities and attributes that you get when you're a guy.
I think they would hold on. Eventually, I do think if it gets to a certain point, they will have to like show an emotion. Like everybody's gonna have to show emotion at some point.
Yeah,
like,
at some point you're gonna break.
Yeah,
That's kind of
nobody's.
like that's
Everybody
breaking-
cries.
that's what I'm
everybody
trying to
knows
say.
that. Yeah.
People see that that's the argument though on like what defines it as toxic, because there's nothing wrong with not wanting to like
Show
you know,
emotion.
show like a whole lot of emotion or be explosive and out of control with them, but
I do believe it's a certain person to person thing for that.
yeah,
I mean, because
exactly.
it depends on how you were raised too. Because
It
if you
generally
have
just
parents that
comes-
were like telling you it's okay to cry, even
Right.
if you're a boy, then like you would never even think about the fact that real men don't cry.
See, that's my
Like-
circumstance I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same thing.
That kind of thought process wouldn't even come to your head because it's like
You see, because I feel
I was
like
never raised with that.
I feel like it's kind of weird because your parents will raise you away, but like not to be like, oh, we fucking hashtag society, but like more often than not, you know what I mean, like you can be raised a certain way, but it's society and the backing of your surroundings that really shapes you more. I feel like your parents can set you up in a certain way, but if like you observing as a child don't see that, then
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
a very
Also, like,
different
your
image in your
environment
head.
is gonna fucking.
Yeah, I think like
Changes.
parents definitely set like the groundwork for you, like a foundation, and then you just kind of build upon that. And you can build, in whichever direction you want. But I do think a lot of it now is like it can be contributed like to parenting. Like if you parent with a more of like an open-minded kind of approach, like it could kind of just leave more room for the like the innate kind of behaviors rather than like what society thinks. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like
I
it's like
think-
if you're like just take the time to think about your feelings and kind of like trust your judgment in a certain situation, then you're just getting that straight masculinity or whatever emotions that
like,
are truly just like genetic.
I want to teach. That's what I want to teach my kid if I do have a boy. Like, it is okay to like cry and have emotions, but I don't want them to like be emotional about every single little thing. Like,
Don't be a bitch.
like it is like if it's like that serious, like yeah, it's okay to get emotional. You don't have to hold it in. But if it's like for like little shit, they didn't say hi to me to this day. No, I get it. I'm gonna bawl my eyes out just because they didn't like, look at me today or message me. I'm like, all right, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. It's not.
I think it's a little harder than that because like it's hard to impose like a specific way you're supposed to feel. It's kind of like all or nothing. Like don't cry or like do cry. It's not like cry now.
Especially when it comes to kids. Especially when
I wouldn't say like don't cry. I'd say think on the situation of like, is it really like detrimental where it will affect you like that? It's emotionally.
That right there is a thought process that I had to come about myself.
Right, that's what I was thinking too.
That's based on your experiences,
figure that out
though,
on your own, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because me growing up, I used to get mad or angry about like small ass shit all the time. Like if someone said some fuck shit to me, I'd be like, I'll get mad at it so fucking easily. I'll be trying to fight someone or whatever. Like, I get my ass beat or whatever, but it's cool. But it got to the point where I was like, damn, I gotta stop getting mad at all these small shits, because at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Because it's just like, if someone's saying some dumb shit to me, like fuck them. Let me just keep on pushing my own life.
Right, like who cares?
I used to do that shit. I used to like trigger him back in high school with that shit. This is kind of
I trigger this man now.
That shit mad. I used to get mad annoyed. I had no tolerance.
I used to call him like my son and shit in high school, and God used to get mad as fuck at me for that shit.
But that kind of like segues though like into mental health, because like what if you as a person, right, within your situation you had all that pent up aggression and you were always taught not to let it out, not to let anybody see you upset, right? And you're just holding that inside. Like when you finally explode, how's it gonna be then?
Yeah.
Terrible.
I think
so,
that's
yeah. I mean, I think we all have like our outings now. Like we kind of know who we are. We have something we can do to de-stress, right? But like when you're a kid, you're still figuring out life, figuring out who you are. Like, what do you do then? If you're taught, do not cry in front of anybody, right?
Well, that's the thing, because that's what you're taught. Like you're at that point you're set up for failure, and you're just gonna have to learn from you're just gonna have to learn at that point. Like you're on your own. Like this is why I think like the parents like have so much impact on like how you develop like your thinking process, because like how I'm gonna teach my kid is like it's okay to show emotions, okay, but you're gonna have to deal with whatever you're struggling with,
right?
Like you can feel what you're feeling, but you cannot sit there and break down and get pushed over.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna cry, you're gonna handle what you're doing while you're crying. I don't care what you're like. Go handle it. Like go handle what you got to do.
It's like I think.
See,
like I was little.
I have a question on that. Like,
let Zach finish it. We're gonna let Zach talk, and then you guys.
Well, I was gonna say like that. I really agree with that mindset, because like when I was little, like that's like I had I took karate lessons when I was really fucking little, but like I think that's like the one thing that like the teacher would always like tell me is like, hey, like just it doesn't matter if you're crying, you have to push through it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's just how I see things. You know, like times are always gonna get tough. And nothing's ever gonna be good. Always,
It's
you know.
not gonna be easy.
And it's like you can show emotion, but just don't let yourself fall into the pit of like you can't do it. You know, like you have to work. You have to work for what you want, and that's just how it is.
But no, then you're not a man. You know.
The thing is,
Well,
I don't
that's
even
just
care if
social, that's the social outlook on it.
I don't
But
even
how
care
I'm
if
a teacher is like, you know,
Wait, can you repeat that? Like in that context, like you're not a man because of what?
Well, I was saying it sarcastically, but like, you know.
Yeah, I got that.
Right.
But some people be like are serious about that. But yeah.
like I don't even care if it's my son or my daughter. Like I want to teach them like it is gonna get hard. You're gonna get hit, but I want you to fucking get back up. Like you could have the emotion like oh shit and then like have your fucking moments but you're gonna have to realize that eventually it's gonna be alright. So you're gonna get back up and keep moving. I don't want you to fucking just sit there and wallow in your sadness or some shit and let life pass by you.
Sometimes I say this shit all the time to these niggas. It's a kind of a bad take, but sometimes I feel like some form of like I don't know, guess toxic masculinity in some certain situations can be good for someone growing. Not in like the.
I'd say it depends on
I agree.
Like
exactly what you mean by like.
I'm
I have an
not
example.
talking about the whole encompassing thing, but certain things that are seen as toxic can like help you grow like mentally. He was like, oh, you gotta be strong, this and that. You know how like even though that stuff can be seen as toxic, but having that mentality of seeking strength to a certain extent. I'm not someone like just be like piece of shit about it, but like seeking strength to a certain extent can help you grow as a person like in this world. Because as we know, like this world is like a piece of shit. So like,
so is that
I have
like
a great
the
example.
same concept of it?
Yeah,
but I don't think that ties to being masculine though, right? Doesn't that ties to being like everybody can kind of have that?
No, it does kind of.
Yeah,
is tied to being masculine.
What's the example?
100%. Because a perfect example would be like in an example you need to be like macho, right? So if somebody's shit talking you, you know, jokingly or not, like in a friend group, you might feel a certain type of way, but you need to learn to be able to like shit talk back, you know. And that's like it's considered a toxic trait to be able like, you know, like degrading towards other people or like you know, dominant, and you trying to emasculate your best friend, you know, like if you're getting a heated argument with them, right? But like that's a part of like sticking up for yourself and, you know, like learning how to
off the, like that it's toxic masculinity needs, or sometimes you need it. Is that like saying like in school some people need to be bullied? Do you agree with that?
No.
Kidding, yes.
There's
High key.
Dang. Okay, like it depends on what the person is getting bullied.
Oh, you know what?
I think. Hold up.
I wouldn't say bullying altogether is a good fucking trait.
I'm gonna hit this with another thing. Is it like not bullying necessarily, but should you hit your kid?
Should you hit your kid?
Like poking fun?
Like I don't like.
Like
I'm
to
talking
reprimand them. Like to reprimand them.
I don't mean like beat the shit out of your kid. I just mean like
punish
you know,
them.
like, fucking, yeah, like spanking. You know, fucking slapping the shit out
What
of
about
their
like
hand.
verbal abuse too?
as effective as I think.
Nah, verbal abuse is
like chastising your
trash.
kid is.
I think there's a pretty finite line. You know what I mean? I think you should.
I think it is an effective form of punishment. But personally, I just can't bring myself to do it. Because I'm not a physical person as it is, and for me to like put hands on someone, I would really have to be like genuinely upset, and I just don't think I could do that to my kid.
Who here has been like
That's
whooped by their parents?
Same with me.
Hello.
I've
been with.
I've been
the
with
thing
my
is,
parents.
I wouldn't.
I've been beat
I
like
don't
a
want
string
to whoop
dog.
my
Same
kids.
hard. Like
I don't want to whoop my kids just for anything. Like it has to be like a serious thing for me to actually like fucking.
But my sister asked me like, what would be so serious that they would do that you would whoop them for?
That you need to like beat their fucking ass.
Yeah.
Black and blue. Like
because if they burn down the house, if they burn down the house, whooping them isn't bringing the house back. And it's like they already know.
Hey, but I guarantee you, they're not gonna burn the house down again.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not gonna do it. Kids usually like if a kid burns out on an accident, the remorse from burning the house down is more than enough. Like from the guilt
I
from them
think-
burning it down would be more than enough punishment for them.
I think the
Usually
only
you could
thing
probably
I could
just
think
like
of off the top of my head
verbally
would
as
be,
well.
I don't think I could verbally. Verbal to me is way worse than whooping your child.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely,
know.
because
absolutely.
You're gonna
Not
fuck
for me.
them up.
Yeah, that's true, though.
Not for
No,
me.
I'm telling you, like
I
verbally
think
to
I'm
me
telling you,
personally
I'm
is worse because like the shit that my parents used to like, it's not like it wouldn't be like serious shit, but it's like the small shit they used to tell me. I would carry that shit on in the back of my head. Like every day I'll go to school. Oh, am I like this or this or that? And it would just be there because it's coming for your parents. Because getting your ass beat is whatever. Or I take a nap and I wake up. But them saying that shit to you, like let's say they call you
That's not
disappointment.
sneaking.
That shit's
anymore,
gonna
yeah.
fuck you up.
The after beating
Not for
naps
me.
are fucking
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
I did not
To me,
be fucking
that shit-
shit.
Yeah.
That's just gonna suck. That's just gonna fuck some people up.
I think I'm the only one in here that disagrees. Like I would 100% rather be verbally abused than physically beat, because
Really?
I can't think of a single circumstance where getting my ass whooped would like resolve an issue that I caused, you know, on purpose or not, because that's just gonna make me resent you more and more. Like every time it happens, physical abuse, like for me within a family unit, is like never the answer. I would rather be verbally abused because I know I'm the type of person who can brush that off. But like getting my ass whooped, I can't trust you anymore. You know, it's
Well, I
like,
mean, you know, like
No, but-
pain,
'cause the
pain
thing
goes
is-
away, you know, scars don't. So, you know, like that, I think we can all agree on
Because
that.
the
you
way
know.
I see like this
Absolutely.
physical like or
Just for
verbal
me, I don't see spank 'cause
punishments
people
towards
are-
children, I don't see it as a way to like, let's say they do something bad, I'm just gonna beat them for it. No, they did something bad, so I need to, because I believe personally, like telling your kid that they did something bad, especially when they're ignorant and they're trying to figure out why, sometimes they may not fully understand it.
so
I'm
you're
not
gonna
gonna
beat
be
my
like-
kid into them.
I'm not gonna be my kid for no fucking reason. But like, let's say if they disrespect me trying to explain to them that how they shouldn't disrespect people that are older than them, they may not just get it off the bat unless they have some type of reinforcements to really think about it. Because like how you said that if someone's telling you something, verbally abusing you, you're gonna brush it off. What if I'm trying to talk to my kid about you shouldn't do it? Adults, they might just brush it off mentally, and they won't stick with them.
Nah, it's different for me. Still,
Yeah,
I
so
get
yeah,
it.
I get
I
that.
guess
I get
it
that it's
varies.
different for you.
It
I
varies
get
from
that
person
it's
to person.
different.
It
Yeah,
seems.
because
Yeah.
I think it is because like I'll win a scream match all day long. Nobody can fucking like talk to me a certain way without me stepping it up a number. So like if I'm trying to get my point across to my child and they want to be disrespectful, I'll show them disrespect, but I'm not. I couldn't bring myself to lay a hand on anybody.
The thing is,
Mm.
what is everybody's definite? Because are we talking verbal abuse like, oh,
See,
you're yelling
we're
at
not
them,
saying
or like,
abuse-
oh, you're
I'm
not
not talking
gonna,
about
you are
abuse,
never
though.
It's a
gonna be
little
shit.
strong.
There's
verbal abuse is a
different,
little strong.
Okay,
there's
not
definitely
abuse.
different variations of verbal versus physical.
They'll be like, oh,
and-
you'll never be shit, you'll never amount to your fucking
Yeah,
disappointment.
that
type shit.
shit
That's
is-
that's the verb.
That's
See,
verbal abuse.
As
Yeah.
I'm gonna step in here right here. So as a person who was raised with both, verbal abuse, I feel like for me personally, made me resent the person more.
Really?
Because I feel like verbal abuse it's like a poison that just keeps going in your system like over and over. Because it's not like physical abuse or not physical abuse, but physical like all that. Like that, like it's like a time that it begins, a time that it ends. It's because it's a consequence of an action.
Yeah,
But verbal abuse can happen
it'll
at
stick-
any point,
it'll stick to you.
no matter if you're doing good, bad, or just doing nothing.
And it's
Verbal
longer
abuse can
lasting.
it's longer lasting. It'll
Yeah.
stay in your mind because they keep reinforcing the idea to you. They'll keep bringing it up to you, and you have to sit there and live with it.
So if it's not too personal for me to ask, because
Mhm.
I can't reflect on physical abuse because I would never got whooped in my life. I've been fucking when I was little I got fucking spanked.
No,
I got
that's-
threatened
that's-
with a
that's
switch,
just what
or a
I'm
belt. I've been
You know what I
threatened,
mean?
but never like physically abused, right? So like
Mhm.
if you don't mind, what's the worst thing your parents ever said to you that stuck with you the longest?
For me,
Yeah.
well, my mom is a sweetheart, but my dad, to describe him, it's like he's kind of, as speaking of in toxic masculinity, my father was the type to never go get therapy or anything for anger management.
Right.
So when my father would get angry, it's like most people's angry stops at 5. My dad stops at 11. So when he gets mad, he will use anything and everything that he knows about you to hurt your
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
So if you have issues with your self-appearance, if you have issues with like an event in the past that's embarrassing, if you have issues with like maybe like coming out of your shell and maybe like talking to people, he will use that against you.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I was younger, I would like just not even the physical part would bother me as much as verbal, because the verbal things that he would say would make me actively avoid him for like the better part of 10 years.
Right.
Like I can live like if I get beat, like okay, like it hurt,
Like, shit, ow,
I
like,
do
hurt.
resent you, like ow, I'm gonna take a nap, I'm over it,
Mhm.
whatever. Like, I might resent you for a couple days, but that's it. The verbal things that they would say to me, or things that he would say to me, would stick with me for
So,
years.
Let
And
me ask you now.
It's you like a blob. What?
Yeah, like so we were touching a lot on like the development of like kids, you know, in a toxic masculinity environment with verbal abuse, physical abuse, right? But so the long lasting effects, I think that for me it would just stick to when I was younger. But like if your father came up to you now and belittled you for your choices and your life decisions and just like mistakes you've made, like you were saying, versus came up to you, you did something wrong, and starts like wailing on you, and you can't defend yourself in this situation, right? You get your ass fucking whooped. What would be more harmful now?
I feel like now, that's a hard sell.
I can brush off the shit talk, but
I
like
think
physically being abused as an adult, you know, is that not more long lasting?
Yes, that's okay. Absolutely, I understand where you're coming from. Because verbal for me, like as an adult, that verbal shit out one ear, out the other.
I would have to.
Because I'm not in my development phase
Right,
anymore.
you know yourself,
I'm not developing. Right? I know myself. I know where
Right.
I stand.
You don't
My
care.
mental state is strong.
Exactly.
But physically, if I'm physically old and like old enough, and like I get into physical altercation, and I can't defend myself, and I have to sit there and take it, that's definitely going to be sticking with me.
You think so? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I was leaning into.
I mean, I think at some point, like they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're too old to whoop," because they have it in their mind like you should already know better because like that's you're grown.
No, but adults like if you're getting your ass beat by another adult type shit, like,
especially a parent unit.
Oh yeah, true. Like if you're an
parental.
adult, because like at least in like in my case, like my parents told, like I just grew up with the mindset of like like usually like what people say kind of like doesn't really like have an effect on you most of the time. Like you don't
Like
really have to
sticks
worry
and
about
stones.
well,
Sticks and
type
stones.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents would usually say like would call me like useless and stuff, but like I guess they would always tell me like later on like they would be like, oh, there's like they would tell me it was just out of a place of anger and they didn't actually like mean those things. And like whenever I was ever like tried to be bullied at school or whatever, I kind of just brushed people off. Kind of, it was like
verbal bullying.
Yeah, like whenever, like I remember this one day when I was at middle school, and like we were just lining up to get football equipment, and then all these fucking 8th graders came up and just started roasting like roasting every 7th grader that was sitting there, and all the 7th graders are sitting there quiet and with like a scared look on their face because you have these 8th graders who are like big as fuck just roasting everyone, and then like fucking. Like they got to this one fucking dude with the like a burned face, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
And like they started roasting him, but the dude got up and started roasting them back, literally. Like he was like the only 7th grader who got up and started roasting them back.
Good for him.
And I was like, yo, I was like, yo, dude, that's this nigga fucking like, he was like would you everyone consider like the ugliest dude there, right? And like he literally like stood up for himself, and everybody else who like didn't like go through like anything or like had like were just like normal, I guess you could say. They were like more scared. I kind of like learned from that dude. I was like, I guess you could like when a nigga's like coming for your shit, like you gotta talk, like you gotta defend yourself and like talk back and like. I guess that mindset is what made it so like whenever people tell me things, I kind of just brush it off now. But that's why like physical abuse when my parents used to hit me was like way worse.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but same circumstance for you. Yeah, you know, how would it affect you now as an adult who knows who they are? You know,
if you tell me shit now as an adult, bro.
Right.
But I'm not gonna listen to anything.
But a parent that you respect and love comes and starts whooping your ass. You can't defend yourself. Yeah. Would that be more long lasting than like the worst possible toxic thing they could say to you?
Yeah, because if they beat you like that, because you'd be wondering like why the fuck, like
But it doesn't matter at that point. You know, like
Yeah,
you as a character, you're defined already. Like if my mom's boyfriend came in here and started fighting me, I could get up, pack, and leave the next day. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I could dip. I don't need to be here. You know, like
But
my
what if you're-
character is set. You know?
What if you're not
Like,
in the circumstance to leave that environment?
well, like I
See
said, like
that.
my character is set. I'm speaking purely personal here. Like I could get up and go. I'm sure most people nowadays they understand. You know, like sure, like you know, argument can be made. There are circumstances where you can't leave, but I feel for most people, you know, if we're talking about like masculinity and all that stuff, like you're not gonna end up getting more toxic, you know, as the years goes on. If you're like mid-20s, whatever, you know, you're pretty set as who you are.
I don't know. Pent up aggression from you don't know how to raise a child because you weren't raised right. You're gonna fucking stoop as low as they did, possibly. You know, potentially.
Well, the thing is like, with that is, before you're having a child, like, you do sometimes think of like what could have gone better, like something that could have helped you out a lot more, and you're gonna take those like or those things that you could have like that you wish or that could have happened to you that helped you grow a little bit more or learn to be a better person or anything like that. And then you're gonna try to influence that for your kids, like like my dad, he never really asked me, like he just is like, oh, you should be a man type shit, like, oh, I don't need to ask you about anything. Like I feel like I should ask my kid, like, hey, you good? Like if you're good, like if you need to talk about anything, I can hear.
Yeah.
But
No, for real. Like you have to be.
I'm just gonna propose an argument for what Sage is basically putting out, and I'm gonna say, you know, my argument is that masculinity is more affected at an earlier stage in your life than at an older stage of your
That's
life.
literally what I've been trying to say this whole.
Yeah.
No. I never dispute that. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with
Okay.
that. I was just kind of clarifying because it toxic masculinity is much broader than just your, you know, being raised, right? So it's like when you're older, how things affect you as well, and how you are portrayed, you know, in the public view.
Yeah, I can understand
based on
that.
societal
You know,
standards, right?
yeah, humans are constantly learning and adapting. So yeah, I could see, you know, you
Yeah,
put in
no,
a certain circumstance, you know, you can change. Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you guys.
I have a statement. I already said this already, but like the whole thing with like growing up and possibly spreading that toxic masculinity onto your children, it's like it really depends on the environment you're gonna grow up in, honestly. Because if you don't have anything to reflect on, like that is opposite of your own experience, you're not gonna really think about, oh, let me not do this to my kid later on, because all you're gonna think about is that anger in your head. It might not be for all people, but some people, how I see it, is gonna that anger and all that harm that was brought to them by maybe their parents or someone else may affect them negatively throughout their life, depending on what they experience. Because me personally, I feel like if I didn't know a lot of the people that I met in my life, I wouldn't be thinking more. Even my parents, I feel like if I didn't have my parents specifically, I wouldn't think about how I view myself around the world. I wouldn't be self-conscious, because I was self-conscious at an early fucking age growing up, like maybe about the age of 5. I was self-conscious about shit that I shouldn't be thinking about. Just like, okay, this is who I am. How does my existence affect other people?
Yeah.
And that's how I just kept on growing up with, and thankfully I kept on growing up with people that had that same mindset with me.
But it can start early too, though, because like you can have a bully, right?
Yeah.
But like I would probably think most bullies who are like real bullies, you know, like ragging on people, just fucking making people miserable in life. Like they probably don't have the best thing going on at home, you know.
And that's what
So
I'm
it
saying.
can start real early, yeah.
It just could affect. And also, what I want to touch upon. Ah, fucking forgot.
That's why Angela was one of them 8th graders, fucking flaming 7th graders.
yeah, you were one of the 7th graders.
You couldn't flame me, Angelo. You tried, you fucking Filipino.
I was about to say something.
You're white,
so,
my guy.
I was about to say
You're
something
white. Like
so
that's all I
bad.
literally need
I'm
to
not
say.
white, idiot.
You're
I'm
white.
Hawaiian.
You're white.
Hawaiian, literally.
White.
When you said the 8th graders flamed the 7th graders, and then Eddie was talking about the verses perfect.
Angelo, I know you're.
That shit was
bullying.
traumatizing.
Is there
bro.
happen
They
to
were
be
about
any
they were
more
about to come to
topics
me,
that
bro.
we want to touch on?
Oh shit! You were
Anything
like,
There is
else
one
to
thing,
touch on?
Yeah, I think it'd be.
So is it? So in this day and age, like I've grown up with like a certain, like I'm willing to like accept anything. Like I'm open to minded, but like growing up, it's for me it was like, oh, it was like a male or female kind of thing. But then like now there's like more options, or like more things that people will be accustomed to, and like I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. That's what they want to believe. That's how they are. That's fine. But how would you treat your, or is like, obviously you're gonna want to support your kid if they were like at a young age, like, oh, I feel like I'm this. Do you accept that, or do you be like, oh, I don't know about that, or
All
like
the
try
time.
to talk them up?
Always accept.
I mean,
for me, no matter what they tell me, I'll always accept it. They tell me
Even
they
if
want
at
trans
a
sex,
young
or they
age.
tell me they want to be
Yeah.
fucking demi boy, demi girl, whatever the fuck you tell me, I will 100% always accept it. I don't give a fuck.
You're obviously gonna, but you're like,
no.
all right, yeah, I will accept it. It's like, I'm like, all right, so I accept it and everything.
I don't know,
But
it
when you
depends
feel
on
like
the
that,
age.
do you
Depends on the age. No, I don't give a fuck.
No,
I don't give a
no,
fuck.
I
I don't give a
I don't
I don't care.
Doesn't depend on the
Doesn't matter what
age.
age you are.
I don't.
Because-
That's your
because
opinion, but to me,
if
it
you-
depends
if you're
on
not
the
willing
age,
to
'cause
sit
I
down
feel
and have a
you don't know what you
discussion,
want
though.
until you at a certain age.
If they come to me at like age 9 telling me they want to be a demi boy, I'm gonna ask them where the fuck you learned that from. First, and then 2, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, if you want to be that, go ahead, son. I'm gonna support you, bro.
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, you shouldn't
No,
support
I'm being
them.
so. I'm literally depends on the age, because I don't believe someone that's younger than a actual teenager would understand the full
concept of
I
gender.
disagree.
concept of it. That's my opinion. Yeah,
I just-
but
I don't
that's-
want to call
that's just how I
kids
see it.
stupid, but if fucking SpongeBob is causing them brain damage,
That's because
SpongeBob's
a
the
lot of
goat,
things is
bro.
happening.
Calm
2
down.
things probably a lot of things at once
You
happening
ain't
to
about to diss
SpongeBob, though.
SpongeBob. You ain't about to diss
Not
SpongeBob.
necessarily because SpongeBob is hard to understand, just because it's just.
Well, I'd fully accept them for the way
Angela,
they are.
let me
but
answer
I'd
your
be
question. I feel like I've been talking too much, but
Like,
like,
no, you're good.
so I'm gonna let y'all know something kind of embarrassing. I think I've told a few people this in my life, but like, so to touch on what Angela said, my entire life, and there's no indicators, no nothing, but my mom grew up in an abusive household, right? And she took that, and she was so core to her beliefs that when she was raising me, every year, like as long as I can remember, at least once a year, right? She would ask me, "Hey, quick question. Do you think you're gay?" Just potentially, you know, like not in an insulting way, not because I showed any signs of like acting a certain way, but she would ask me, "Are you gay?" And I would say, "No, Mom, I'm not gay." And she would say, "Okay, well, I just want you to know, if you were, that'd be okay, and I'd love you the same, and I you know, nothing would change." And she told me that every single year. So as far as like what Angela was saying, you know, that like, I don't know.
No, like, yeah, I get it. I know what you're
you
trying
know,
to say.
like that support system, right? So definitely depends on you.
Yeah, you should always support. Like, for me,
Right,
I
like-
feel like I'd support my kid. Like, yeah, all right, I'm good, but I wouldn't want to like why they would feel that. Like, what made you like? Why you started feeling
No,
this
I mean,
way?
yeah, of course,
And I'd be
I'd
like-
inquire, of course, but
Yeah,
you
it,
know.
And I
it
feel
puts
like-
me in a weird situation. But afterwards, after I understood, you know, what she said, and I thought about it a little bit, you know, I would ask myself, you know, am I? I don't fucking know. I don't think so. I'm not, right?
Yeah, you
I,
should. You
I
should
felt
always
so
do that.
much more comfortable with myself, right? But
Mm.
I feel like if it's like, oh, you're a little young, but you know, I'll accept it. But if you still feel like this, like when you're growing up, like and if you change your
yeah,
mind or
I,
anything,
like
just tell
I
me,
think
and
how
I'll just
Angela
keep
said
going
it
with.
is
I'll
how,
just always
is how
support
it's
you.
like kind of better worded.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a
It's not
take on
like-
this question or on this
Would
question.
disagree, but
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
no, I was just saying it's not like I would, be against my son being gay or something, but like he's coming at me like 5 saying like, "Dad, I think I'm gay." I'm gonna be like exactly like Eddie, like, "Hey, where'd you learn that?"
I
Did you
mean,
learn
but
that,
no,
bro?
but if he explained to me that like that, I actually have feelings. Well, at 5,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah, that's
it's a
what I
little
mean.
young. But
That's a
I'm
little
gonna be
young.
like-
Like,
a little
you
young.
just know what
I think you gotta
emotions
just
are.
ask.
Okay.
then you're
Like,
gonna have a
from
real long conversation though. You know,
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
how,
like-
you know,
As long as
how,
you're willing
why
to
do you
sit
think
down and
that?
understand.
But, like,
Yeah.
number
right.
one. I'm always
That's-
willing to sit down and understand.
See, I don't have no
Don't
problem
ever-
supporting my child, but the thing is, I want to make sure
They know what
they
they're
know they're
doing.
sure.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
the
as
same
long
thing
as you
with-
don't
the
sit
same-
down and chastise them
Because
for
the same
what they're
thing with
thinking.
Yeah.
Sage said about contemplating if he could, like how his mom asked him, "Oh, are you gay?" And then contemplated like, "Oh, could I possibly be?" It's the same
Are you
thing
gay?
with
Are
me.
you gay?
Are you gay? No, I'm
Yeah,
not gay. Why
yeah,
are you
it's,
gay?
it's the same thing that I have experienced too. Like I had to contemplate, "Oh, am I possibly?" And that took me like maybe a while to really think about that.
Right. It's something
So-
you got to think about.
Yeah, it's like because I was
I don't
young.
think so.
Well, I was young when my dad
Yeah.
brought it up to me, and it's like, and even like, I think the first time he brought it up to me, I was like, first grade,
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
and then like even throughout those years, like maybe like until like fourth or fifth is when I understood that absolutely that I wasn't, because I still questioned it, because I was like, yeah, I don't really hang out with females all the time, and when I'm around them, I don't really like what's it called, feel like I could talk to them well as I do with dudes.
Yeah.
So I would contemplate and think like, damn, could that be a possibility? Then
Yeah.
it's like, nah, I guess not.
It's my exact experience. Yeah, I agree. And that kind of comes full circle to
Yeah.
like toxic masculinity. You know, like as a parent, how do you react to that? You
Yeah.
know?
I'd like to make a small segue.
Yeah, what was the thing that
keeping-
you wanted to say,
keeping
DJ?
Angelo's question in mind. So I have a little belief, right? Looking at how parents can contribute to character and the in a child's development. I feel that there's two ways that you can focus on how your child's character is going to develop, right? You can either teach them with a confident mind, or you can teach them with an analytical mind. Okay. Is there any argument to that? Does anyone think differently?
When you say analytical, are you
Analytical
like
mind
the
meaning
process?
think before you do, or be confident in what you decide to do.
I disagree as well.
I do. The thing is, I believe in both.
Mm.
I believe, because me personally, I use both. Because sometimes I'm like, let me think about this shit. Like, sometimes fuck it, I don't care. I'm gonna just do it because I want to do it.
So are you saying those are the only like two ways?
No, I'm not saying those are the only two ways, but I'm saying that those are two ends of a spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay? Because with everything there's give and take, right? If you're analytical, you're going to think about things more, perspectively, right? I'm going to see how I would see it, how my mom would see it, how my dad would see it,
Right.
Yeah,
But
me
what
personally,
that's also going to lead to overthinking. If I think of things confidently and how I feel emotionally, like I'm just going to do this because I want to, then that leads to arrogance.
So like objectively.
Yeah,
step
that
back.
leads to arrogance and also closed-mindedness as well.
I feel like
Think so?
I think so. I think this give and take can happen with both,
Yeah,
of,
I
like
do-
either one of these mindsets.
It
like
does
can
lead to
lead-
closed-mindedness, 100%.
Yeah.
I do feel like it does lead to that.
Well, which topic? I'm sorry.
Like, not
Like
at
I'm
least
saying,
accounting
like
for
basically
other
I'm
people's
saying, like
feelings
so I'm
and
saying,
things.
yeah. So I'm saying, like when you decide to like tell your child, right? It's like, okay, your child comes to you, and they're like, okay, mom, like dad, I think I think I'm like I'm gay or something, like they're thinking
Right.
certain things, right? It's like okay, am I gonna tell my kid, like this is an extreme kind of thing, but it's like, okay, like am I gonna tell my kid, like, okay, be confident in what you do, or it's like, is it okay, sweetie? I understand, but I want you to take some time and think about this.
Well, no, that kind of goes on to who I don't remember who said it.
The
But
way
like,
your parents
it was
raised
like
you.
if you're really really young, you might not understand that, right? So you might have to have a conversation. It's not necessarily bad because you might be closed minded, but if you pursue that conversation, and it turns out maybe they're not gay, that's a positive outcome. Like
Mhm.
you help them find who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, not
So you're
everybody's
saying
as
depending on
lucky.
what stage or like what age per se is the kind of response that you would give.
I think it's the person and the age. Like it comes along with intelligence, right?
Mhm.
It depends on their developmental stage. Like you could be in first grade, like whoever said. Sorry, I keep forgetting who said.
Oh,
it.
that was-
All good.
Yeah. You could be in
All
first
good.
grade, and you could know 100% in your soul, I am a guy. I like guys, and that's the way it is. But after you have
Yeah.
that conversation, your parent will now be enlightened to that fact, right?
Mhm.
Even if they're closed-minded, even if they don't agree with you, it's a positive outcome because they know that you know who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is it so such a positive outcome? What do you mean by positive outcome exactly?
At
Because
least in the sense that, like,
I think he's just talking about having
they
that
feel good about
conversation to
themselves.
understand your
yeah,
child.
Yeah.
they feel good about
It's about how you
themselves, and
approach
you
it.
feel good about them feeling good about themselves.
yeah, even if you no, you don't even have to feel good about it. Like even if you disagree with their choices,
Mm.
it may not be a positive outcome for you. Like you're like, oh, I'm so devastated. I'm super religious. My child came out gay, but at least they know it themselves, and you understand that they're aware of that, and so you've had that conversation. You know that 100% they believe what they believe. Like that,
Mhm.
I think that's a good thing, because as a parent, it doesn't matter what you think. It's about your kid knowing who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But then the danger comes where parents, like religious
Yeah.
parents, try to like wash the gay away at the
Yeah,
Baptist
that's fucking
church.
toxic. That's disgusting.
That's
That's scum of the
I
earth.
Yeah.
Scum of the earth.
so I for one can step in here.
John's like, hold on a second.
You want to
Yeah,
get
a little bit more of my life story. Let's push it out. When some kids say like, oh, like maybe I am, or maybe like the idea of, and their parents like shut it down or try to change their ideas by saying like, oh, maybe, like, for example, using me at a young age, like I knew from a very young age like what I was and what I represent, whatever. And my father, like before even like knowing any part of like what my sexuality was or anything like that, I was already taught that it was like a bad thing. And it was always like reinforced more and more and more. And like for instance, like when we went out to like some, I don't know, circus or something, right? And my dad was like, and I was like, you see that person over there? I'm like, what it's like somebody like dressed like differently from us and very flamboyant, and very outgoing. And he said, you see that? That's an embarrassment. We don't want to be like that. We want to be men in the Felder household.
That's
like,
rough.
We don't want to. Yeah, that's how he was in the beginning. And he was like, this is like was installed in me. I was like three fucking years old. And I hear that and I'm like, okay. And I knew early, like maybe around 7, that I was the way I was, like, because that's like what I finalized. I put all the things together. It took my young mind a long time to put the puzzle pieces together, right? And after that, it's like, well, what can you do at that point? It's already installed in your brain that your parent doesn't like what you do, so you would try to change yourself, or you change and resent yourself at the same time, or you would hide it as much as you could. And that was like, I would say, like very detrimental to the health of like a child under the age of 12, right? Very like scary. So it's like at the very beginning, you're taught to like hide something that is a part of your core. So
when you finally got up the courage to let them know, were you shut down? Did they try and change who you were, or?
I'll say I had a couple of close calls. So it starts with me becoming more confident when I reached high school. In middle school, I was always like asked, because I'm pretty flamboyant, like as I am now, and the way I spoke and everything. But it was like nothing was set in stone. I didn't put any things out, and I realized like the more you put your foot down, the more you speak up, the more you show confidence in yourself. You don't have to worry about what people think about you. It's about what you think about yourself. And when I chose to come out, I already had my system of positivity. I have my people backing me up in multiple like areas.
Friend groups.
I planned this shit out. It wasn't just like, oh, like here, like one day, like, hey, like, are you done with the washing machine? Let me talk to you real quick. It was like 6 months, 8 months. Okay, if this happens, I have this backup. I'll go to this house. I have my aunt that likes me, and this. It's very strategically planned out, because I was ready for the negative reaction. But at that point, I was tired of hiding who I was. I was tired of hiding who I wanted to become. And so when my father asked me, finally, like, "Are you?" and I said, "Yeah." Why? What's up? To show him that I wasn't afraid of anything that he thought of me.
Yep.
I was just ready to take it all. It's like, yeah, why? And I looked at him in his face and stared into his eyes as I said, yes. Why? Why are you asking? And then he said nothing.
So you fought back the, I don't want to be aggressive, but like the toxicity.
Yes,
like,
that's how
there was no drawbacks. He just accepted it instantly.
It's more like it took a couple of days for him to process that. And because for the longest time, like he was the person who installed the resentment and hateful things towards this like particular group. And when as I said, I had a couple of close calls, and I was reprimanded for it, and I would resent him immensely. That's why I was like, verbal was big for me. I would like be reprimanded, like, oh, what did I find on your phone? Like, why are you talking to this boy? And like, you're 15. I'm like, okay, cool. And like that would happen, and then I realized like the more that I would just like accept like the toxicity, the harder it would become. And so I became tired of it. Like I fought my own demons, as people say, and I decided to push back. I decided that it was time to put my foot down. I decided to put up that giant ass wall that can't be crossed, or maybe knocked on, and I'll open the door a little bit and speak to you. But that's how I have developed as a person, and I feel like because of the childhood that I have, like I feel like that my personality shines through that, and that's why today I'm so loud. Today I'm so
Great.
expressive. Today I do not give a fuck. Today I will dress the way I want. Today I will say the things that I want without remorse, and do the things that I want to do because I wasn't able to do them when I was younger.
So did he treat you differently?
My dad is very like traditional Christian man. The only book he said he read a lot was the Bible for the longest time, and that was like a thing that I would have to read sometimes. I like David and Goliath, a good story, and he he what were we saying? Sorry, track lost.
How did he treat you differently?
Oh, he treated me so it took 2 months for him to speak to me again after that.
Wow, that's hard.
He had to grab. Oh, it's okay. I avoided him anyway, so I didn't care.
Oh.
I have a mom. My mom is very sweet.
Awesome.
For the dynamic for our family was my dad was very much in charge for the longest time, until my mother was like, you know what, I'm done with that shit. Let me step up. Let me speak. And it took a long time. It took for me to be born for that to happen. Like I have 2 older siblings that are like 15, 16 years older than me, and they went through the same thing. And
she was your support system.
She was my support system. That's the only reason I think I'm like here today, because my mom is like so fucking good. And that's why I was able to stand up against my father and put my foot on and say like, hey, yeah, I am gay. And he had that 2 months of silence, and that was fine with me. I was like, damn, I'm living it up. Like I could walk in the living room, you want to say this to me? Like, okay. Like, oh, Dad, are these your crackers? Like, I'm gonna eat this shit. Like, this is good. Did you buy this? Like, I ate that shit up because I had to deal with 18 years of that shit.
Hell yeah.
So I'm gonna rub that shit in your face. Like, hi, Dad, how are you doing? Walk right past me. All right, have a good day. Like, I'm fine with that shit. I can deal with 2 months of silence for 18 years of resentment. And so after the 2 months came up, he sat down and like spoke to me, and we had a discussion, and he started evolving as a father because he was like, you're the youngest and everything, and I just wanted what's best for you, and I was taught this and everything. And of course, he brought his Bible quotes and everything in, and I was ready to take them, and I was ready for my rebuttal. And that's why I'm always ready for, like, earlier when we were talking, I was like, I'm always ready for the fight. I'm always ready because so, my father. What?
Go ahead.
No, I'm always ready for the rebuttal. I'm always ready for the fight because I always had to deal with the verbal things that my father said. Since he was my father at a young age, I wasn't able to say anything back. I have to take all that shit.
Yeah.
And when I did try to speak back when I was like 15, 16 and started feeling rebellious, it was always, shut up, I'm speaking. Okay. Mm-hmm. And now it's, John, why don't you call me more? I don't know, Dad. I'm tired from work, Mm-hmm. And he has to deal with that, and that's his own demons. And if he wants to reach out, that's him.
Like DJ said, it's a spectrum, and you're kind of on both ends. You had your dad who kind of ragged on you for just being who you were, and then you had your mom she chose not to reinforce those societal standards of, oh, you need to act a certain way, you need to be a certain way, be a certain person. Mm-hmm. And you kind of, I don't know, you got to understand how it works, from a different perspective. But do you still resent him today? Do you still have any of that resentment left over?
I feel as I've grown older, like I've gotten some pretty pleasant surprises from my father, good reactions. After I graduated from high school, like my dad tried to have a sex talk with me, and I was weird as fuck. Because he got more comfortable. He's like, I've been reading up about like what this is. My dad, old ass fucking like 50-year-old man, is like comes out his glasses. I've been reading about this. I'm like, okay, all right. What's up? It's like, can we have a sex talk? I'm like, oh, okay. Let's talk in the kitchen. I'm like, all right, sure. I sit down. He's like, I don't really, like, he was very nervous. He's like, I don't know, like, how to really ask, like, what goes on with this. And I was like, well, I'm happy. Like, first off, let me say, like, I'm happy for you to take this step with me at all, because before, like, those 2 months, you kind of looked at me with disgust. I didn't know where we were going to go from there. But I'm happy that you're willing to have a talk with me, because my son. And I was like, I like that you're evolving as a person. And I try my hardest now that I'm older to not resent him, because even though like the gay thing was like a big deal for us, I also wasn't the perfect child either. I have my own shortcomings, my own problems that did probably need to be reprimanded at some point. But the resentment I have just turns to pity at this point, now that I'm older. Because my father might not be the best, like, figure, everything, but the childhood, like, upbringing that he had was harder in some ways, that physically, at least, for what he told me. And so I always took, like, the things that he would say with a grain of salt, and try to apply them in new, like, inventive ways as I gotten older, you know. And my brother and sister, being older, light years ahead of me, like 15, 13 years older than me, they're done. They don't have time for father, and that's fine. I understand they're coming from, they have 15 more years of that shit. And I'm the youngest, and I'm like, hey, why don't you talk to dad at Christmas? Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm done with that. Like, hi dad, bye dad. That's all they get. For me, seeing my father, like, older, weaker, at this, and, like, kinder in some ways, now that I see him briefly, I feel nothing but pity. And for him, I feel, I feel, yeah, I just feel pity. I'm just like, oh, dad, like, you okay? Like, what's going on with this? Like, everything that he's come to, and my brother and sister, I'm like, hey, like, do you guys feel bad about that for dad? And I was like, nope, that's his shortcomings. That's what happened to him. Nope, that's his thing. That's why we avoid him actively. Like, he'll see his nephew and nieces and everything, but that's on our time. It's not on his, and that's when we want to bring him over and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, damn. And they're like, it's no damn about it. Like, we had 16 more years of dad. He was worse than he was when he was with you. And I was like, well, that's very fair. And
would you say then, so going back to, like, all the way from the beginning, I think somebody said, like, can you change, like, who you are coming from toxic masculinity, like portraying yourself as a certain type of person, like, so you guys had certain conversation. He did break down some barriers in your opinion, like,
absolutely
you change, so you can overcome it.
He's overcoming it. He's older, he's more feeble now. And I recently had, like, a whole, like, family intervention thing, kind of. My father's not the crying type, as very, very much toxic masculinity. Like, the only time I saw my father cry on separate occasions was when his friends passed away, because he's older. And that's the only time I've ever seen him cry about anything.
Wow.
And so for me, I was like, I had a discussion with my father talking about, like, oh, like, my car got towed, right? And it was really near rent, and I was struggling, and I talked to mom, and I was like, Mom, what should I do? And she said, don't say another word, and passed me 500. I'm like, oh, damn, okay, I'll take care of this. And I pay, like, I'm, like, on a family plan with my father and my mom, and so I drop off money, like, whatever, like, every month to, like, pay for that stuff. And I also paid my mom back during that month. And it was like $500 extra on the table. My dad's like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, like, well, I'm paying mom back for this thing. Like, she helped me out when I was really struggling and everything. And my dad was, like, very, like, quiet and, like, slow in response. And he walks away, and he comes back and he's like, kind of, like, tearing up. And that was, like, very jarring for me, because I don't see my father. What's going on? Like, I'm freaking out, but I'm more in shock than anything. And my father comes out, and he's like, well, you can have your $500 back. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, well, that's a large sum of money. And he was saying, well, I'm your father. Like, I'm just sad that you can't come to me as a father to help you out with it. You have to go behind my back and speak to your mom. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was in shock, but I didn't say anything. But what I was thinking was, you raised me that way. You raised me not to rely on you. You raised me, like, to present to you this way. You raised me to, my mom was my pillar. Like, you were the thing that dragged me down. So I'm gonna talk to mom. Mom is everything to me, And so that got to him, and I guess I realized that he needed to change more, and that's when he bawled his eyes out in front of me. Like, okay. And for me, that was very jarring. I didn't know what to feel. I was, like, cluster of emotions, and I told he was, like, apologizing, like, while crying, and I'm like, it's okay to cry. Like, I understood, like, for him, like, being raised in a household where crying was, like, synonymous with, like, just bad things, I guess. Like, he would apologize for crying in front of me, because, like, that is not manly. And I'm like, it's okay, Dad. Like, you can cry. It is okay. And I had to calm him down. All I gotta say is, I left the situation. I went back to my car, and I called my entire family, or my single family, that, like, my mom, my sister, my brother. Like, what the fuck? Dad just, what? Everyone's freaking out, because I didn't know what to do. And after that, I realized like I started pitying him more than respecting him at this stage. And so that's my answer for that. Might have been long-winded, but you get the point.
Oh man, good story.
That was really interesting.
Well, I did remember the night that happened. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for opening up
you
to
were
us
just
about
fuck,
that.
dude.
Anytime. I'm an open
We got
book.
any more any closing statements before we cut off?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I have something to say. I just don't know how I want to say it. It's just, all the new recent like family memes, everybody's like, I got family, that they
That's
just
true,
drive off
yeah.
into but yeah, I'm like, at the end of the day, I think that's true. And with any relationship, whether if it's work, girlfriend, boyfriend, mom, dad, I don't, I think anything relationship wise can be fixed. Right. Fixed as in a stable relationship. Whether if it takes years, months, days or weeks, I think anything can be resolved within a relationship with just solid communication.
Even toxic masculinity.
Even toxic masculinity. Well, that's why I gave a broad term of fix, right? So, not saying fixed as in asking someone to change, but fixed saying, as in setting a boundary at the very least, right?
It's like a general understanding.
Yeah, it's like some people won't be able to talk because they're afraid. Some people won't be able to talk because they think they won't get through to somebody. Some people won't be able to talk because, they just don't know what to say, but I think that especially when it comes to like family, like family, like, because like even me with my dad, right? Like I hard resented him. I did not like how he, like his form of punishment was very just, it did not make any sense to me. Like I thought about it for years and years and years. Just never made sense to me. And I was just like, I just never understood it. And for that reason, I just resented him. I didn't talk to him or anything. And, I at one point I didn't ever want to talk to him again. And I think back on those times and I'm just like, that's not the kind of like approach that I think is right. I don't think that's a right approach. And now I'm becoming more like I want to have time aside from my dad. Because when they're not there, there's something that you're never going to get back, Like once everything's set in stone, like once they're gone, that's time that you're never going to get back with them. And every person has something to offer in your life,
Unless like those people who like, I guess I would have like those people who get in situations where like they can't ever forgive their parents because they did like traumatize them because for like something really really bad, because like there are sometimes where people can say like their parents are like unforgivable and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what about in those cases? Because like they wouldn't even like want to talk to their parents anymore, fully cut them off type deal.
One of my friends literally just it's really weird to see because like at first I thought their relationship was like that, considering their mother is like one of the reasons that they like can't walk properly anymore, why they're like basically handicapped, because she like literally curb stomped her ankle when she was like 13 because she was just mad. And they had like a very terrible relationship for like the longest time, and even now it's like really weird what they're being like civil. I was like really out of the blue, but they're being civil like this entire time. It was like, this awful situation. I think that, it takes reflection on both parts.
Yeah.
For
that to truly happen. You know what I mean? The mother reflected and said, hey, yeah, I should probably be in jail for what I've done, but I know sorry's not enough, but I want you to, have a relationship with your younger siblings. So I'm not gonna jar that anymore because she was, getting in the way of that. But
Yeah, like it's just like I kind of tie this together with how I feel about how like I want to raise my kid. It's like okay, what other people think of unforgivable is probably a little different than what I think of unforgivable. Right? There's hard resentment. There's like, I don't want to talk to you for years. I want to have a whole family before I ever see your face again, right? Like I could understand that, But like I'm gonna tell my kids, it's like life's gonna get rough, you're gonna have a rough start. You can have a rough start, you can have a rough finish, you can have, rough anywhere. It's gonna get rough. But you just gotta have to, cry those tears and just tackle it, And I like that in conjunction with me believing that like resentment is just not a good driving force for anything. It like those two just go hand in hand for me. And I think reflecting and communicating builds stronger character than resenting and kind of walking away from things.
Oh, I agree entirely. That's like a whole other fucking topic of like problem solving. Like people who run away from their problems, I feel, are only stunting themselves in the end.
Yeah, not saying that anyone here is running away from problems or anything. Like this is just how I feel, because like, yeah, my dad didn't do anything like horrible to me or anything, but I did hold a lot of like just resentment towards him, and like me believing, like I said at one point, that I never wanted to talk to him again. And then I really reflected like on those thoughts, and I was just like my dad still has like things to offer to me in my life, like just emotionally, like sentimentally, like there's still a lot of value to be had there. And I just don't ever want people to like just be like, oh, like this person, like sure, there's extreme cases, argument can be made, of course, but yeah. I think like just generally, like there's a lot that people can still offer in your life, and that just communicating and reflecting can just fix a lot in people.
That's pretty good advice, honestly. Good communication, because nowadays feels like niggas just don't want to understand people anymore.
Yeah.
For real.
Everything's just taken at face value and just accepted as so. No questions asked.
No,
because we live
real.
in such a fast-paced world.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you stepped on my shoes, I'm gonna beat you up. Later, did you find out the man was blind? It's like, what?
Okay, stink meaner.
It's actually so true. It's just like road rage, honestly, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, road rage is like
off.
the number one
Nah,
thing.
bro,
I'm like, dude, you literally never know what the other person is going through in their car. What if you find out that the person is like a 90-year-old woman? She's suffering, like, bro.
Pregnant lady get crashed into your car. You shoot the trigger, pull over to the driver's side.
I was gonna say, bro, not in Houston, bro. You're finna get shot. Never flip anybody off in Houston.
Oh yeah, no, definitely don't. Just keep driving.
Into your car.
Just keep driving.
Hell yeah.
Take a picture of the light of the driver.
They really don't care about their cars here, bro. That's just insane.
Yeah.
I can't talk. I flip people off all the time.
We're demons, bro. Actual demons out here on the road.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What some closing statements?
Now that's the Reserve Corps podcast. Late night episode. Pretty sure niggas are asleep. Ganyu, I don't even know if this is still here. Yeah,
Ganyu was gone.
Yeah, Ganyu died. He died. So I guess thanks for pulling up. It's your,
this was fun.
Host with the roast. Burley. No, I'm joking. Okay, it's your boy Juno Nice.
Angelos Filipimos.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
See you later.
Later.